Do you ever feel like a fraud or doubt yourself, even though you have the rightful qualifications? 70% of people experience imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. Welcome to the What's Eating You podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, and I'm a psychologist, published author, and public speaker here to educate and validate. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to the What is Eating You podcast. I'm your host, clinical psychologist Stephanie Giorgio, and I am so glad that you are here today because out of all the podcasts, anything you could have been listening to, you've chosen to be here and invest in yourself, and that is something to be extremely proud of. So give yourself a little pat on the back. Right, now today I'm going to do this episode because I was asked a question recently on social media, and at the beginning I didn't know how to quite take it. So someone inboxed me and said, "Hey Steph," and this was in response to a story on Instagram. So it was a story about a public speaking gig that I did in Bali. So I speak at women's retreats, and they said to me, "Hey Steph, do you get imposter syndrome? And if you do, how do you deal with it? And if you don't get it, why don't you think you get it?" And at the start I was a bit like, "Oh, do I get imposter syndrome? Because I don't think I do. Am I meant to be getting it?" We live in a society where we talk about tall poppy syndrome and, oh, you don't want to be too smart, or you don't want to talk about money, or you don't want to boast about yourself. But I've actually always been the opposite. I've always said, boast about yourself, talk about your accomplishments, shine your light, don't dim your light to be polite. But in a lot of cultures, especially Australian culture, we call it tall poppy syndrome, where it's almost as though you want to stay humble or not talk about your achievements because it can look like you're self-centered or you're up yourself or whatever it might be. And when I got this message, I was thinking, oh, are they saying, why don't you think you get imposter syndrome? But it was actually a very good question. And I thought, you know what? I don't get imposter syndrome. Maybe in the beginning of my psychology career, I was more nervous because I was a new psychologist and there was things that I wasn't really trained to deal with, or psychological issues that I wasn't familiar with. But this is really normal. It's normal in any job that you're going to come up with stuff that maybe you don't have the competency yet, and you learn it. But I would just learn it. I'd say, okay, I've got a client with this type of OCD. I'm going to do some training on this. I'm going to learn about this. And that's what makes you better. But for some people, they would run away straight away and think, no, I can't do this. I don't have the qualification. I don't have the experience in it. So I thought I'd talk about imposter syndrome today and how to overcome it. And we're going to go through the steps. It's going to cover confidence, how to be more confident. We're going to cover perfectionism, and you're going to get so much out of it. So make sure you grab a pen and paper, because this isn't just a passive podcast. I want you to actually take actionable steps. And that's why I always give you really specific strategies that you can use. So make sure you grab a pen or listen very carefully, because this can potentially really change your life. It changed mine and it made me who I am today. That's why I want to talk about this topic. What is imposter syndrome? Imposter syndrome is a psychological phenomenon where individuals doubt their accomplishments and have persistent fear of being exposed as a quote-unquote fraud, despite evidence of their competence. This can lead to feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, and anxiety, even in the face of external validation. Imposter syndrome is commonly experienced by high-achieving individuals, including professionals, students, and creatives. Here are some key findings based on the research of imposter syndrome that you might find interesting, because guess what? You're not the only one. Now, it affects both men and women, but it manifests differently. A study published in the Journal of Behavioral Science found that whilst both genders experience imposter feelings, women tend to internalize these feelings and attribute success to external factors, whereas men are more likely to attribute success to their own abilities. Right. So, for example, perhaps if you're in the gym and you're lifting super heavy weights and you're killing it, a woman might say, yeah, it's because I'm in my ovulation phase of my cycle. That's why I'm so strong. So I'll attribute that success to something internal. Women tend to internalize these feelings and attribute success to external factors. Right. external factors to explain it, while men are more likely to attribute success to their own abilities. Oh yeah, it's because I'm super strong, or because I'm eating right, or whatever it may be. It's because I'm training really hard. Maybe a woman might say, oh, it's because the weights were different in this gym. I'm not sure if I'm interpreting that correctly, but let's just run with that. 2, academic settings. Imposter syndrome is observed among students. So 20 to 30% of students who are studying really get this, especially high achieving ones. So this is a good thing. If you get imposter syndrome, you're a high achieving individual, go you. And I guess the most important thing I want to bring home here is it's not about never experiencing imposter syndrome. It's similar to anxiety. It's not about never experiencing anxiety. Everything in life is about changing your relationship to it. Same with binge eating, same with body image. It's not about never binge eating again. It's about changing your relationship to binge eating so when it does happen, it's not obsessive and controlling and distressing in your life. Same with imposter syndrome. When you get it, you're like, oh, cool, I've got imposter syndrome. And then you truly win. Same with anxiety. Oh, I'm feeling super anxious that I'm going on this date. That's normal and expected. Go me. It's the relationship people have with the thing that we are talking about. So I want you to change your relationship with imposter syndrome. Now, back to the point, we're talking about recent findings. It's found in the workplace. 58% of workers experience these feelings at work. What causes it, right? They think it's a few different factors. The most important is perfectionism. People who are perfectionists are more likely to get imposter syndrome. That's probably why I don't get it, because I am not a perfectionist. I think it's a good thing. I don't know how people do it. I can't be perfect. And being perfect would drain my time and energy. For example, if I was to be perfect at this podcast, right? I've just written up a rough sketch and then I'm really excited. I'm like, I want to record without properly scripting it. But that's what helps me get it done. Whereas if I was to be like, no, Steph, write it out perfectly, the start, the end, the summary, the introduction, I would just get turned off and not do the task. So for me, being imperfect is more functionable. And I know people can't help being perfectionists, but if you're listening to this, embrace being imperfect. It's actually really fun. Okay. Other factors include early life experiences. So obviously, if maybe your parents experienced this or were perfectionists, you would get this. Cultural factors, societal expectations. But research has also found that individuals who receive praise for their intelligence rather than their efforts are more susceptible to developing imposter feelings. So perhaps if you grew up and you were told, oh, you're so smart, you're so clever, you might actually be more of an imposter rather than a person who's like, great effort and well done. The participation award. And then psychological factors also are associated with it. So they found that imposter syndrome often is associated with perfectionism, self-doubt, and fear of failure. I think fear of failure is a big one. And to answer this person's question, I'm not afraid of failure. In fact, I welcome it. I'm so happy to fail. It's all good. I've made heaps of mistakes. I've spent over $30,000 on an app that I decided I didn't want to do anymore. You probably remember this if you've been following me for a long time. I did develop an app. It was going to be an app for all my online courses and programs, but then I just didn't want to do it anymore. I just thought, why am I spending this on an app when I can just do it on a computer? And it was just ridiculous. Like to add a button was $2,000. To add this was that. But like I said, I just want to get things done and get it out there. So maybe an app in the future might be good for, I don't know, a meditation app or affirmations, whatever it might be. But at the time, I didn't think it through. I just thought, I'm going to develop an app. I didn't think my idea through, which is probably where my imperfection affects me, because I don't think things through properly. I don't plan things. I just go and do it. And then it ends up being quite an expensive mistake. But the point of the story is I want to tell you, I've failed so many times. It makes life fun, right? I didn't get into honors. I was like, oh, how am I going to get in? What am I going to do? I didn't get into masters. Oh, how am I going to get around this? I treat life like a game. It's a game. It's a game where we are all playing. We are all rolling the dice. But here's the thing. You will never win the game unless you are playing, and people are too scared to play. Ooh, I don't want to play. I might lose. I don't want to play. I might fail. But unless you play the game and you risk failure, you never have a chance to win, right? How did I get onto this topic? I'm talking about causes of perfectionism, psychological factors, fear of failure. I don't have a fear of failure because I don't see failure as a bad thing. Did you know that FAIL stands for first attempt in learning? Whoa, yep, first attempt in learning. And if you see failure as a bad thing, then you're going to be scared of it. So it always comes back to my theory. Change your relationship with the thing, not the thing itself, right? Don't get rid of failure. See fear of failure as a good thing. See failure as a good thing. So I think that's why I don't have imposter syndrome, because I'm not afraid to fail, because at the end of the day, what does failure even mean? It means you actually tried. And I think that's a win. I learned so much about developing an app. I learned this new skill. I created something. It was cool. But then I just thought, nah, I don't want to do that anymore. But that to me is not a failure. That was just a choice to do something different. And I'm happy to have invested that money in that rather than shoes. So anyways, maybe in the future the app will come to fruition. If you've got an idea of what app I can bring out, let me know. I'm happy for ideas. But it was going to be courses that you can listen to on the go, so you don't have to be on a computer. And you can listen to my courses on the go. You just have to bookmark the website on your phone. But the point of the story is you are going to fail, but it's good. Welcome it. Hey, failure, let's be friends. Right, so the point of the story here is imposter syndrome. It can have significant mental health effects. People are more likely to get burnout. They're more likely to get anxiety. They're more likely to get depression, low self-esteem. So let's learn to manage this, because we don't want you feeling like that. So how do we overcome imposter syndrome? How do we show up to work and do our job without thinking, I'm a failure, I'm a fraud, I don't deserve to be here? There's some of the thoughts you might get. There are better teachers out there. Why are they talking to me? There's a better professional. There's someone who can help them better than I can. That's probably a thought I used to get. There's someone more qualified. There's someone, with expertise in this disorder that I don't have, which is so true, right? It's not about what CBT will tell you is to challenge your thoughts. And I looked this up. I Googled, I'm like, how do you overcome imposter syndrome? And it said, challenge your negative thoughts, right? Which is useful. Challenging your thoughts is useful, but in some cases, your thoughts may actually be right. There might be someone more qualified than you, but doesn't mean that that thought is helpful, and doesn't mean that you have to follow it, right? I would always bring myself back. But yes, Steph, they want to see you. They're here to see you. So I'd be very transparent with clients in my early days. I'd say, hey, look, this isn't something that I'm super familiar with. It's not something that I've had a lot of people come to me for, but I'm willing to learn and get supervision, get the necessary training and go through it with you if you're happy to do that. Yeah, sure. They love it. People love the transparency. I think it happened once with a couple. So I had a lady booked in for a session. This was many, many moons ago. And she said, oh, my partners will be here in a minute. And I was like, excuse me? I'm sorry, what? I don't do couples counseling. This is what I'm thinking. And I was like, oh, okay. Is this a couple session? And she said, yeah, it's a couple session. I just booked me in, right? Because it was through a workplace program through EAP. But yeah, okay. First couple session. And yeah, they showed up and I felt like an imposter because I didn't do couples counseling. But I thought, Steph, you're never going to know unless you try. So I'll let them know. I said, look, usually I don't do couples isn't an area that I do regularly or ever. I said, but I'm more than happy to use these 3 sessions that you do have to explore what's going on, make some recommendations, and we can hopefully work together. And I think I told them that in the 2nd or 3rd session, and we were laughing. They were like, haha, that's sprung. But they're like, no, that's fine. Like, it's been great. And that's it. At the end of the day, 80% of therapy is the therapeutic alliance. So if you're clear with people, then they're going to appreciate that. Anyways, that's how I experienced imposter syndrome and how I overcame it. But here's my theory. Here's the juice. Here's what you got to write down. My theory is imposter syndrome isn't a competency issue, right? Because a lot of people think, oh, I don't have enough experience, or I don't have a degree, or I'm only a provisional psychologist, or I've only been a teacher for 4 years, or, oh my goodness, I don't have, this qualification. It's not a competency issue, because even super professionals, people who do TED Talks, people who have written books, people who are social media influencers will say they have bad imposter syndrome. So to be honest, it doesn't matter how qualified you are, because it shows that people with qualifications are the ones to get this the most. So it's not a competency issue. I believe it's a confidence issue, right? Because for me, I'm very confident in what I do. And I think because I'm very confident in what I do, I don't get imposter syndrome. But the thing is, I do actually have the qualifications as well. But I'm not confident because of my qualifications. My qualifications do make me more, certified to do what I do in society today, because there's so much out there. But I'm confident because I have the courage to try. And that's what I'm going to talk about. Basically, what I want you to do is do a quick exercise with me. I want you to imagine if you woke up tomorrow and you didn't have imposter syndrome. You were 100% imposter syndrome-less. What would be different? How would you know if you didn't feel like an imposter anymore? Would anything really change? Say you showed up to work and you didn't have imposter syndrome. What would be different? Would you speak to the people around you differently? Would you speak to your boss differently? Would the quality of your work change? Would you go for more opportunities? Would you put your hand up in meetings? Would you go for that promotion? Write this down. If you woke up tomorrow and you didn't have imposter syndrome, what would be different? Would you actually have more qualifications? And if you had more qualifications, would that change anything? Or would you be less critical? So, part one of my theory was that people with imposter syndrome have low confidence or have less confidence. It's not competence. They're usually very competent in what they do, but it's a confidence issue. Or they're too scared to be confident because we live in a society that's kind of like, ooh, be humble. And number two, my second theory is people who experience imposter syndrome are perfectionists, and I'm not. Are you a perfectionist? Let's do a quick checklist. A perfectionist is someone who sets extremely high standards for themselves and strives for flawlessness in their endeavors. Perfectionists have a strong desire to excel and achieve excellence in everything they do, whether it's work-related tasks, personal projects, relationships, or other aspects of their life. Now, it's not all bad. I have friends who are perfectionists and, man, their podcasts are doing so well. Their social media is doing so well because they're super consistent in what they do. They won't let themselves fall off the wagon. But that comes at a cost. Being a perfectionist, yes, it can have so many advantages, but it comes at a cost. And usually the cost is burnout, tiredness, potential anxiety, potential depression, critical self-talk. There are some aspects of perfectionism that are not good. So number one is they set unrealistic standards, which can lead to dissatisfaction. You're never really happy with yourself. You never say, oh my God, I got 87 on a test when the average was 70. You say, why did I get 90? You're always looking for that percentage that you didn't do well in. And this is mental filtering, which comes from unhelpful thinking traps, which is another episode I would encourage you to think about. Second thing of perfectionism, fear of failure. People who are perfectionists have an intense fear of failure. So you avoid taking risks and you avoid trying new things out. See? Whereas for me, because I'm not a perfectionist, I give everything a go. And people may look at me and think, oh, she always gets so many opportunities. Why is she on TV? Why is she on the radio? Why did she get interviewed by this, da da da? I have way more qualifications or whatever. I've got a doctorate, this, and this. No one's actually said this, but I imagine this is what happens. I'm not smarter than any of these people. I'm just willing to say yes. I will literally say yes to anything, right? I had 2 hours notice to be on TV. And most people, but oh no, I don't have I don't know about this topic. I had 2 hours, not even, I learned that topic in an hour. I knew what it was. And yes, I have the quote unquote competency to speak about it. But for an hour, I became confident at it. I made TikToks on it. I wrote about it. I listened to podcasts. I literally increased my competency in 1 hour to increase my confidence to do it. And if you watch that interview, I look so professional. I look so put together, but it was only because I was willing to give it a go. Number 3, critical self-evaluation. So perfectionists tend to be highly critical and they harshly judge themselves for perceived mistakes or shortcomings, right? You need to be your biggest cheerleader. You know why? Life isn't fun when you are self-critical. And people might say to me, oh, but Steph, you should pay more attention to this, or you should be more da-da-da-da. It's like when I missed my flight, right? Or when I've done something. I can be very careless sometimes. And my dad will be like, oh, Steph, you need to pay more attention. Da-da. But he's learned to let it go. He's like, if she misses her flight, she pays the price. It's not my problem anymore. I'm not self-critical. I'm not self-critical because it's not fun. I don't get anything out of it. And trust me, the urges are there. The urges are like, oh, Steph, you're spending an hour and a half in the gym doing stretching when you could be recording a podcast. How do you expect your podcast to grow? And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. Seeb's going down that road today. So you've got to nip your self-criticism in the bud. When that voice comes up and it's like, oh, look at all these other mums at school and they get their kids on time and you're always late. Like, yeah, I am. Because it's not fun. So sometimes to shut self-criticism, just say, yeah, you're right. So that's a strategy to overcome that. People who are perfectionists may have trouble delegating, right? They try to do everything on their own because they believe I'm the only one who can meet my own standards. And this happens in business. A lot of businesses may not grow because they're scared of delegating. I'm the opposite. I would delegate the stuff I hate, right? Invoicing, admin, emails, accounting. I outsource that because I'm going to hate myself when I'm doing it. And guess what? I'm not going to actually do it. I'll avoid it. I'll avoid my taxes till the last minute, the last brink of time. Just outsource the stuff you don't like. And do you know what? Accept that it's going to be done at a lower standard because no one is going to work the same way as you do, but it doesn't mean that the job isn't going to get done. I know that my admin may reply to an email differently to how I would, but I'm grateful to have that support and care, even if the email is worded wrong. We had an issue where one of the admin gave access to 4,000 people in my database to a course that they didn't buy. And she was freaking out. She's like, oh my God, Steph, I've pressed the wrong button. I'm like, it's all right. It's because, you know what? I gave her that task. So really, it's my fault. It's my fault. If I didn't want a mistake or if I wanted it done perfectly, like I could have done it, but I probably would have made the same mistake. But I said, don't worry, just chill. It's all good. Like they won't be able to actually get into the course. And you know what? This is probably a great marketing thing we've done. We've just let 4,000 people know about a course that they didn't know about. If you got that email, if you got the glitch, that's what it was. So don't worry. If you can delegate. People, oh, I feel so guilty getting a cleaner, or I feel so guilty getting someone to do this. Don't. You need the help. And just the last on perfectionists, all or nothing thinking, that black and white, I'm either really good, I'm either really bad. And perfectionism can exist in so many different areas of your life. So the point of this is, are you a perfectionist? And if yes, you're more likely to have imposter syndrome. We know that you need to work on this. So how do you actually work on this? How do you overcome imposter syndrome? My theory is this. If you want to overcome imposter syndrome, you have to increase your confidence and you have to become imperfect. That's all it is. Because when you're not worried about being perfect and when you have the courage to try things, that's going to build your competency in that thing, right? First time I jumped on this podcast, I was like, oh, so nervous. I don't know how to record. Now I just jump on the mic and I can speak. Same with public speaking. Oh, I got the best compliment. I got the best compliment of my life. When I was at this retreat in Byron Bay, the videographer said to me, "You're media trained, right?" I'm media trained. What? And I was like, no, but thank you. That is the nicest compliment. And then I asked my friend, I'm like, what's the best compliment someone could ever tell you? She was like, oh, I don't know. But anyways, there's something to think about. So because I've done this so many times, I can jump in front of a camera and just switch it on. I can jump in front of a mic and just talk. Not because I'm smarter than you, not because I'm better than anyone else, not because I have these qualifications. It's because I have the courage to try. And when you have the courage to try, you build competency. And when you build your competency at that thing, you build confidence. And then you just become known as that person. So now I'm known as that girl. I'm known as that girl who speaks at retreats. I'm known as a public speaker. I'm known as that psychologist. And now I'm like, well, everybody thinks I'm this, so I better think I'm this. Right? Because if you go around thinking, oh, I'm too scared to try, I don't want to give this a go, I might not get the job, you are never going to get your reps in. You're never going to try things, right? What is confidence according to Google? The definition is so bad. It's the feeling or belief or trust that a person or thing is reliable. What the hell does that even mean? Self-confidence is trust in oneself. Self-confidence includes a positive belief that one can generally accomplish what one wishes to do in the future. Okay, what does that mean? You know what? So I redefined confidence. Confidence is the courage to try things, even if you're going to suck at first. That's it. You want to build your confidence to wear a dress? You have to have the courage to put the dress on. You want to build your confidence in your body image in yourself? You say, if I had more confidence in my body image, what would I be doing? I'd go on a date. Go on that date. You have to be willing to try, even if it feels really uncomfortable, because guess what? There is a positive feedback loop in your brain when you are willing to try. Neuropsychology says that when you give something a go, you're creating a competence loop. Because you try it and your brain's like, oh, that wasn't that scary. I didn't die. And you're like, I can do this again and again. And the more you do it, the more confident you feel. When I was first a psychologist, I used to see 9 people a day. Don't recommend it. But I was just so excited to get into the field. I was like, yeah, give me clients. I saw everything and anyone and any condition and anything. And I did that for years and years. And guess what? Those reps built mastery. And mastery builds confidence. But people are too scared to get the reps in. But you have to fail. You have to fall over. Because all that competency that comes from you being willing to try is how you gain mastery. I'm not just good at social media. I was uploading 3 TikToks a day. So I had to learn a lot of stuff. I had people commenting, can you talk about this? I had no idea. I had no idea what limerence was. I had no idea what certain conditions were. I Googled it and I learned and I studied it and I became confident at it and competent. Right? 4 years ago, 3 years ago, I wasn't in the area of ADHD, but you'd think I'm an expert on it because I'm competent in it, because I had the courage to learn about it and try. Now, so here's what you're going to do. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to define the area of your life you want to become more confident in or the area of your life you want to have less imposter syndrome. Let's take your work, for example. Everyone starts at 0, right? Remember this, everyone starts at 0. True confidence begins the minute you begin to try. So if you want to be more confident at your job, you've got to be willing to try new things at your job. If you want to be more confident in your body, you've got to be willing to try new things with your body. You got to stop wearing the same oversized t-shirt every single day. Okay? Confidence is willing to try. You don't have to wear that short sleeve dress all day long, but try it on. Yeah, when I do body exposure in Food Freedom with people, you don't straight away go to the beach and wear a bikini. You just might wear a short sleeve top to work for a couple of hours. Okay? Same with my podcast. It started at 0 downloads, but I started this in my 30s. There are millions of podcasts you could listen to today, but the difference was I was willing to try. There are people I spoke to, and you know what? People who used to compare themselves to me. I'm thinking of one particular person who said, "Oh, watch this, Steph. When I start TikTok, I'm going to overlap you. I'm going to plan to get 100K in the first month." I said, I hope you do. I think that you are so smart. I think you have such amazing ideas, amazing content. Get out there. But I'm pretty sure this person had undiagnosed ADHD and was crippled by their own analysis paralysis. They had such expensive equipment to film. They filmed really good content. They had the best people editing it. And the only thing is, they just didn't start. And they said this to me in December 2022. The end of December 2022, they're like, "I'm starting my TikTok." Have they started it? No. If they just started it and uploaded imperfect content, I'm telling you, right now they would be on heaps of followers. And I'm not saying this to compare, but I'm just saying, stop waiting. Stop waiting for the right time to do something that you really want to do. I was speaking to another lady the other day in my program, and she said, I don't like my life. And I said, "What's your dream life? You wake up tomorrow, what's a dream day in the life?" And she told me. And I said, "Girl, that is so, why can't you do that?" And she said, "I can. I actually can." You view things as mountains, but when you break it down, it's really not that tough, right? For example, if you get imposter syndrome doing presentations at work, break it down. Say, I'm writing things down on a presentation, I'm turning on a computer and I'm reading out slides. That's it. And during that meeting, everyone's going to think, I'm really excited to have lunch. But yay, I don't have to work for an hour. No one actually cares much about you and what you're doing. That's the steps. You walk in the room, turn on the computer, read the slides. That's literally it. And the more you do that, the more confident you're going to get at doing it. And the more confident you get, the less imposter syndrome, because you're going to say to yourself, I've done this a million times. I am good at it. Okay? So over time, you'll go from someone who is terrified of doing something to someone who can do it easily. And imposter syndrome is a good thing. It's a fancy way of saying, I'm going to do something new. So don't fear imposter syndrome. Fear never trying things that are going to reduce it. Now, I want to talk a bit about confidence before I wrap up this podcast, because they're both linked. Because if you're more confident, you're not going to feel as impostery. Confidence cannot grow if you are never willing to be without it. To build confidence, you need to go where you have none. Right? So, for example, right now, I'm not the most confident driver because I haven't driven for a long time. When I moved here, actually, my car died. My car died in 2019. Yeah, it was the year I went to Thailand. My car died, and I was just like, oh, I never got around to getting another one. And it's been 5 years? So I just don't drive as much. So if I want to be more confident in driving, I need to drive more. That's it. If you want to build confidence, go where you have none and you will watch your confidence develop. You want to be more confident in public speaking? Public speak every day, even into your phone, even record yourself. Okay? So don't overwhelm yourself. Just start somewhere and just have the confidence to try something different, try something new. So just remember, building up confidence in a new arena is going to be scary. It's going to make you feel vulnerable, but it's a home that you build for yourself over time. So go where you have none to build that confidence. And confidence is not the same as comfortable. In fact, it's the opposite. You're going to feel the least comfortable when you're building your confidence. So this means you got to make friends with vulnerability because it's the only way to be confident, right? So what that means is you've got to let fear be present while you do the things that matter to you. You really want to be associated with, say, health and fitness, okay? Health and fitness, it means a lot to me, but I don't have the confidence to go into a gym, okay? So you're going to allow fear to be present while you go to the gym because that's important to you. Remember this. Imposter syndrome happens in 70% of people, but it's not bad. It just means we got to get your reps up. It means that you're either a perfectionist. It means that you either set super high standards for yourself. So all we got to do is we got to chill a bit, right? So instead of being so hard on yourself and so critical, I want you to say, what did I do well today at work? So if you're a perfectionist, you can say, what did I do well today? You can say, what did I do imperfectly today? Go me. If you're a perfectionist, I want you to send an imperfect email. I want you to write an imperfect text message. I want you to stop trying to be perfect. I want you to spend less time on that assignment. Because guess what? It's probably going to come out the same. In summary, everyone, you, the person listening to this right now, changing your relationship with imposter syndrome is a good thing because it's going to help you build confidence. So the next time you feel imposter syndrome, you say, hello, old friend. It's me. That was 2 songs that didn't quite go together. But anyways, when you get imposter syndrome, you say, there you are. Okay. What am I feeling impostery about today? Okay, if I didn't feel this way tomorrow, what would be different? Oh, nothing. Okay. So we're going to lean into that. And we're going to do the thing that's going to help you build confidence. How do you do that? You say, if I felt more confident and I didn't have imposter syndrome, what would I be doing? Oh, I'd be taking on more clients. Okay, so you do that, obviously within your scope and practice. Write down the scenario which you want to build more confidence in or less imposter syndrome in. Pick a scenario from this situation and repeat the behavior as often as you can. If you're like, I want to feel less impostery about working with anxiety. Okay. Talk about anxiety. Explain it to as many people. Grow your confidence in it. Because once your confidence grows, then that situation becomes a comfort zone, not a panic zone. And then we just keep moving up along the list. And finally, celebrate your wins. Stop being so self-critical because ain't nobody got time for that. Say, I'm so proud of myself. Treat yourself like a toddler, right? When a baby learns to walk, you don't say, it's not that impressive. I've been walking for 40 years. You praise it and you shout, oh my gosh, yeah, you're walking. Do the same for yourself. If we all treated ourselves like children and toddlers, the world would be a much happier place. We wouldn't call ourselves fat. You would never call a child fat. You wouldn't call yourself ugly. You wouldn't call yourself old and disgusting. You would clap every time you did something amazing. Oh my God, yay, you ate your beans. Well done. Treat yourself like a child and life becomes so much more enjoyable. And just for the legal stuff, just remember this podcast is educational only. Please don't substitute it for medical advice or psychological advice. Always seek independent advice for any concerns you're going through. If you enjoyed this podcast, just scroll down and just tap the stars. It takes 2 seconds, and I will appreciate you forever. I'm so glad you were here today, and if you love this episode, please make sure you stick around for the next one because I have a lot more coming out over the next few weeks. Take good care, and I'll see you soon. Bye! Thank you for listening to today's episode. I am truly grateful for you being here. If you got something out of today's show, please take a moment to leave a rating or review. To access more resources or support, check out the show notes below. See you next time.